Hi, my name is Chris Murdoch. I'm from Revelation and Restoration Academy of Music and Drama. How are you today? I hope you're doing great. Welcome to today's adventure through the world of piano music. We're going to learn keys to playing chords. Keys, get it? Keys on the piano. And this is particularly useful for gospel, for worship music, contemporary Christian, contemporary, any contemporary style really. And so, without further ado, let's get started. Except there's one thing I like to do at the beginning of the lessons. Dear Jesus, thanks for existing. Thanks for loving us. Thank you for giving your life for us. Thank you for the gift of music. Help us honor you in music and in everything. In Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so we're going to learn about chords, and the first key that I want to give you is there are many kinds of chords, but if you're not told what kind of chord it is, then it's a major. So let's say you've got lyrics. You've got lyrics that say what to sing, and then they've got the chord symbols above. And you just see the letter C above some lyrics. And then the letter G a little further. Well, it doesn't tell you what kind of chord that would be. So, what kind of C chord and what kind of G chord would you use? Yes, major. In fact, if we just call it a C chord, unless we specify otherwise, we mean C major. If we call it a G chord, unless we specify otherwise, we mean G major. If we don't tell you what kind of chord it is, it's major. Oh, whoops, one exception. In classical music, sometimes you will see uppercase for major and lowercase for minor. But modern chord sheets, you won't have to worry about that. If you don't see any kind of chord, it's major. But what is a major chord? Well, you start on the root. That's what the chord is named after. So if you see a C above the lyrics, you start with a C. That's the root of the chord. It's kind of like the foundation of a house also. And then you go up 4 half steps. Now, when we're counting half steps, or whole steps for that matter, we don't count the key we start on. But what's a half step? Well, it's the closest key possible, whether it's a black key or white key. So from C, up 1 half step would be C sharp, up 2 half steps, D, up 3 half steps, D sharp, and up 4 half steps, E. There we go. C, E. So that's a C chord, right? Well, that's the first part of it. In fact, we call this the first, or the root, or the tonic, and the third. But then we need the fifth also. C, D, E. We've played one letter name, we've skipped a letter name, we've played another letter name. That's why we call it a third. But it's a major third because it's 4 half steps. Now we put a minor third on top of that. A minor third is made of 3 half steps. So, half step up from E would be F. Another half step would be F. Another half step would be G. There we go. C, E, G. Again, that's a minor third from E to G, because those 3 half steps have us playing one letter name, E, skipping a letter name, F, and playing a letter name, G. So it's a third, and a third of 3 half steps is minor. So a major chord, you can think root, up 4 half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 3 half steps, 1, 2, 3. Or you can think root, up a major third, which equals 4 half steps, up a minor third, which equals 3 half steps. Now the 3 easiest major chords to play are C major, F major, and G major. Well, maybe 4 easiest to play, because F sharp major, which can also be written as G flat major, that's a really easy one too. C, F, and G are all on white keys. G flat is all on black keys. Any other major chord is going to be on partly white and partly black keys. Okay, I know, no key on the piano is partly white and partly black, but I mean, yes, it's going to be partly played on the white keys and partly on the black keys. And here's another key to playing chords. You can play chords all notes together. You can play them one at a time in any order. You can play 2 at a time and the other one after that. You can play 1 and then the other 2. But it's still the same chord, no matter what. As long as you have the C, the E, and the G, it's still a C chord. So you can do lots of things with just one chord. My left hand is going to be playing the C in 2 different octaves. And sometimes I'll add the G, maybe even the E. Remember, the C, E, and G are part of that chord. And then the right hand is going to be playing around with the notes of the C chord different ways. See? Oh, C major. But you see it? You see what I did? I was just playing around different ways with the notes of the C chord, and it was still the C chord. When you have sheet music in front of you, it'll tell you more or less exactly what to play. But when you just have a chord sheet, lyrics, and a chord symbol above, then, well, you have to know how to improvise some. Of course, it's great to be able to improvise on the sheet music too. Now, unless you're told to do it that way, don't do it that way on a playing test. Yeah, play exactly what's written. But you can improvise, and you especially need to, when it comes to the chord symbols, because every exact note that you're going to play isn't written. You may improvise on it so much that you never play a song the exact same way twice. So, like I said, the easiest major chords to play are C major, F major. We know that's 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps up from F is A, and 1, 2, 3 half steps up from A is C. G major, we know G, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps up is B, and then 1, 2, 3 half steps up is D. When you're in the key of C, you can play a lot of songs with just the C major chord, the F major chord, and the G major chord. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. See? I played that all on C major, F major, and G major. Now, I'm playing it rather simply. I want to make sure I don't add in extra notes, because right now, although I normally do, right now I'm showing you how it can be played with just those chords. And again, I played them different ways. So, if you're not told, unless it's classical where uppercase means major and lowercase means minor, if you're not told what kind of chord, it's major. That's key number 1. And if you're building a major chord, you go up from the root 4 half steps and then 3 half steps. Okay? And you can do that with any any pitch on the piano, to build a chord on it. And no matter how you play those notes, all at once, one at a time, two at a time, in any order, and for that matter in any rhythm, it's still that chord. What chord you're playing has nothing to do with what rhythm it is. You can play it in any rhythm. I just played the C chord, all notes together, blocked, and one note, two notes, and all three notes blocked together, and I play them in different rhythms. The rhythm doesn't affect whether it's the same chord either. So, what order you play the notes in, or whether they're all at once or not, doesn't affect what chord it is. So that gives you a lot of freedom. You can play them one at a time, two at a time, three at a time, and the rhythm doesn't affect what chord it is either. So that gives you a lot of freedom too, because you can play them in all different rhythms. Okay, so let's try building a major chord on some other pitch class besides C. By the way, what's a pitch class? Well, pitch is the highness or lowness of a note. There are higher pitches to the right, lower pitches to the left. I can sing a higher pitch or a lower pitch, but all C's are the same pitch class, or all G's are the same pitch class, or all B flats are the same pitch class. That's what a pitch class is. Anyway, let's try building a major chord on A flat. So find an A flat, and then how many half steps do you go up? Yes, 4. So where would that put you? Yes, C. And then how many half steps, excuse me, do you go up? Yes, 3. And where does that put you? Yes, E flat. Again, I can play them in any order. I can play them all at once or one at a time. 2 and 1, 1 and 2. It's still the same chord. Any rhythm too. Let's try building another major chord. Let's try building one on D. So find a D. Now, up 4 half steps. Where is that? F sharp. Yeah. Up 3 half steps. Where's that? A. Yeah. Okay. One more. Let's start on A this time. How many half steps up? And where will that put you? Yes, 4 half steps, and that will put you at A to C sharp. And then how many half steps? And where will that land you? Yes, 3 half steps, and that will put you at C sharp to E. Yeah, you can even improvise by switching the octave you're playing the chord in. Now, there are times to use other notes in addition to the chord notes in your improvising, but right now I'm sticking to just the chord notes as much as I can. I might occasionally accidentally throw in a note that's not part of the chord because I'm just used to it, but this is so I can show you what you can do with the chords. So, another thing about chords is, just like it doesn't matter what order you play them in, the notes of the chord that is, it doesn't matter what order you play the chords in, but the notes of the chord can come in any order and still be in the same chord. They can also be stacked in any order. That is, regardless of which one is played first, or next, or last, or if they're all played at once. Regardless of that, if you have a C, an E, and a G, it's still a C major chord, whether it's got the C on the bottom, and that's the easiest way to figure out what the notes of that chord are by the formula that we've learned, or whether you take that C and you leap that C up to the top, and now you have E, G, C. It's still a C chord. We call it inverted, but it's still a C major chord. What if we want to put the G on the bottom? Oh, so jump that E up to the top. G, C, E. That's another inversion of the C major chord. It's still C major chord. That's another thing we can do when we're improvising, and that's another key to playing chords. We can stack whichever one on the bottom, whichever in the middle, whichever on top, as long as they're the notes that we got from that chord formula of, if it's major, then root, 3 half steps up, 4 half steps, and then 3 half steps up from there. Yeah, we can just take those same pitch classes. We can put the C up there, or put the E up there. It's still that same chord. Okay, so for example, that's one thing you can do if it stays on the same chord for a long time in a song. I already talked about being able to jump to different octaves, but you can also switch to different inversions. This just takes some practice. And inversions also make for a smoother sounding change and an easier change, an easier move for your fingers, that is, when you're switching between chords. So remember earlier, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. I played C major, F major, G major. Of course, I didn't need to say major. If I don't say what kind of chord it is, then it is major. C, F, and G. I played them all in what we call root position, with the root on the bottom. C on the bottom, the root of the C chord. F on the bottom, the root of the F chord. And G on the bottom, the root of the G chord. But what about inverting that F chord? I want you to try it. So first we've got the F, A, C, right? Well, how do you invert that to put the A on the bottom and the F on the top? I'll give you a moment. Yeah, all you have to do is keep the A and the C where they are, and just jump that F up to the next octave. There, the next F. That's the first inversion of the F chord. Well, what about inverting it again? Can we put the C on the bottom and the A on top? Well, of course we can. Try it. What did you get? Did you get just keeping that C and the F as they are, and then leaping this A up to the next A? Good, good. And that makes for a nice smooth transition from the C chord, if we're playing it in root position, to the F chord. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Oh, I inverted that G chord too. Look, what's that G major chord if we put it in root position? The position with the root, the G on the bottom, that we used when we were figuring the chords out. Yeah, G and up how many half steps? Yes, 4, and it would land us on a B. And then how many half steps, and where would that land us? Yes, 3 half steps up to a D. But what I did was I just took that G and I put it in the next octave. position, F in second inversion. We've got the F, A, C, but we say C, F, A because the C is on the bottom. Back to C, and then G in what we call the first inversion, with a B on the bottom, and the G on the top. That's our cadence in the key of C major. One meaning of the word cadence, anyway. You should practice that. And, in fact, what I'm doing right now is a form of vamping. Have you heard of vamping before? Vamping is when you do a repetitious pattern, probably based on a chord, very often based on a chord, anyway. Maybe I shouldn't say probably. But if it just says C above the lyrics, and it says that for a while, maybe even if it doesn't, if I just think the style calls for it and it'll sound good, I might just vamp back and forth between the C and that second inversion F chord. It would sound kind of clunky if I played both chords in root position. But, yeah, remember, F, A, C, but I can put that C on the bottom. And I also threw in the G chord once in a while, inverted like that. Instead of having the G on the bottom, just with the G raised to the top. So, practice those. C in root position, C, E, G. F in second inversion, C, F, A. Back to the C in root position, C, E, G. Practice that different ways. Play those chords different ways, but keep going back and forth between them. Same with C in root position and G in the first inversion, B, D, G. You can do so many things by learning a few chords. And, in fact, why did we use the C, F, and G? Well, because those are some of the easiest major chords to learn, because they're the only ones on all white keys. And like I said, also, I may have said F sharp, also can be written as G flat, is another easy major chord to learn because it's on all black keys. Any other major chord besides that uses some kind of combination of black and white keys. But why did we focus on C, F, and G in particular and not much on the F sharp or G flat? Because in the key of C, those chords are really important to the key. See, if you know your scales, which it's a great thing and important to learn them if you don't, if you know your scales, well, whatever major key you might be in, well, if we're in the key of C, first note of the scale is C, we can build a major chord there. Fourth note of the major scale in C is F, fifth is G. In whatever major key we're in, we can build major chord on the first of the scale, we can build a major chord on the fourth of the scale, and we can, the fourth, and we can build a major chord on the fifth note of the scale, and those chords are really commonly used in that key. If we're in the key of G major, which by the way has one sharp, F sharp, that's this G major scale if you don't already know it. Well, it's the G major scale if you do already know it. But yeah, we've got the one chord, the chord built on the first note of the scale, G major. G, up 4 half steps to B, up 3 half steps to D, and then we've got the chord built on the fourth of the scale. Yeah, C, up 3 half steps to E, 4 half steps, and then up 3 half steps to G. C, plus 4 half steps up, plus 3 half steps up. There we go. And then D is the fifth of the G scale, so D major chord, D, up 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps to F sharp, and 1, 2, 3 half steps up to A. If we're in the key of G, those chords are very common. And so you can learn to do that in any major key. Now, there's a little more complexity to it if you get into minor chords and minor keys. But since we've only got about 4 minutes left, what I'd like to do is do a little recapping and a little demonstrating and a little you be the chord inverter. That is, I'll have you invert some chords. So, if we don't see what kind of chord it is, what kind is it? Yes, major. And is it still the same chord if we play the notes all at once, or one at a time, or 2 and then 1, or 1 and then 2? Does it matter what order? It's all the same chord. Does it matter what rhythm we play them in? No, it's still all the same chord. Does it matter what octave we play it in? No, it's still the same chord. And how do we build a major chord? We start with the root and then go up how many half steps? Yes, 3, and yes, then 4. Good. So that's another key to chord playing. And we can invert the chords by doing what? Yes, taking the notes of the chord and stacking them in a different order on the piano, regardless of whether we play them all at once or what order we play them in time-wise. But from left to right, we just change the stacking order of the notes on the piano. So, let's try it. Let's say we've got the G flat major or F sharp major chord, depending on how it's written. So, we start with G flat. Just to be consistent, we'll call it G flat throughout this rest of this lesson. 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps up, A flat. 1, 2, 3 half steps up, D flat. So I want you to demonstrate then for me. How do I invert this so that the B flat is on the bottom? I'll give you a moment. Yes, we just keep the B flat and D flat where they are. And we put that G up on top in the next octave. The first inversion. Well, what about the second inversion? How do I do that? Can you demonstrate for me? With the D flat on the bottom? So if you kept the D flat and the G flat where they are, and you put the B flat on top, then you're right. Yeah, that was another key to chord playing. That sometimes when there's the same chord going on for a while, one way to add variety is by playing in different inversions. All right. So I'm glad you got an opportunity to demonstrate to yourself that you're learning these inversions. Now, in another lesson, maybe we'll get into the minor chords, then maybe diminished, then maybe augmented. But I'm glad we got to learn about major chords and inversions. Again, this is great for gospel piano as well as just about any other contemporary style. It's also good for folk. Yes, so many styles are often written with chord symbols. Again, knowing chords and reading music are both important. And, by the way, if you're interested in online lessons or just trying one to see if we'll be a good fit, the first online lesson, if you go directly through me at Revelation and Restoration Academy of Music and Drama, rather than through a third-party company, it is free. And I hope you will try that, and I hope you have a blessed and musical day with Jesus. This is Chris Murdoch of Revelation and Restoration Academy of Music and Drama, signing off.